Hello, hello. Welcome everyone to our, what day are we? Tuesday webinar series with our early stage leadership team. I'm Laura Carfang. I am one of the co-founders of survivingbreastcancer.org, and I am so excited to hang out with everyone tonight. Those who are on the screen as part of this panel, and then for all of you who are tuning in, listening, and watching, because I feel like, and I might have mentioned this in my last podcast, that I've kind of taken a little bit of a hiatus. I had a couple of weeks off where we were just doing deep dive, editing on our podcast, preparing things for the summer, but we are back. We are full steam. We are so excited. And what a great way to conclude May and kick off June with the fabulous early stage leadership team who are our amazing volunteers who have joined survivingbreastcancer.org. I want to say for almost over a year now, if not more. Someone keep me honest with the duration that you guys have been volunteering with all of us. But you guys have really been a sounding board for me at survivingbreastcancer.org. You guys are my ears to the ground. You come with ideas. And tonight I am so excited to kind of introduce you to the world and for the world to kind of see what happens behind the scenes at survivingbreastcancer.org. And I truly, really believe, I know we hear this all the time. Like I work at Babson College, I work in a graduate business school. We hear all the time that you bring more people to the table, you're going to have diverse ideas and your end result is going to be better. And I truly believe that because that has happened with this team. And I am just so excited about where we have come since having you guys on board. So tonight's agenda is to do brief introductions, kind of take a deep dive into what it means to be a volunteer at SBC and specifically volunteering on our early stage leadership team. And each of you, again, we always honor and value diversity of all kinds. And so we definitely want to talk about diversity of breast cancer and all of our experiences. And so we may be able to kind of learn from each other and then also have our listeners and viewers resonate with one of your stories, if not even directly resonating, understanding yes, I've been in that hard time too. That was a really challenging situation for me also. And so I'm very excited for the conversation tonight. For anyone who is watching on social media, please feel free to use the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat. I'm actually going to try and wear multiple hats, moderating the conversation, also monitoring the chat. But if you have questions for any of our panelists, we want this to be interactive as well. So I am just so excited. Megan from survivingbreastcancer.org, let's start with you because you were a guest appearance tonight, which I'm so excited. I'm so glad that the timing worked out. So for anyone who doesn't know, I think there was how many emails back and forth trying to schedule time for all, 8 of us to be online?
Yeah, it was tricky, but I'm glad that we could make it here. This is great to see everybody.
Awesome. Well, if you'd like to just kick things off and introduce yourself.
Sure, yeah. So my name is Megan McCallum, and I work for SBC doing a variety of tasks. A lot of it is with the blog and newsletter. So if you enjoy that, that's what I'm usually diving into, getting that flowing on the website to make sure that we're sharing people's stories and resources that are helpful for you as someone who has been diagnosed with breast cancer. And that's kind of my passion work at SBC. And I do a lot of other things here and there too, helping out Laura with anything just to keep the ship running as smoothly as we can, because there's a lot going on and it's really exciting. So I'm happy to help with whatever I can in that realm. And then in terms of my personal story, I was diagnosed when I was age 32. I was diagnosed with stage 3 triple negative breast cancer. And that was in late 2018. And so I can't believe how far out I am at this point. It seems like a lifetime and also just a couple of days. But yeah, the topic of tonight's chat is really great because I think, as we progress through survivorship, there are, various things that come up, questions, challenges, and especially the further out we get, we're not necessarily going to be seeing our primary medical oncologist very often anymore. So me personally, I mean, someone just the other day asked me oh, when's your next thing? Because I used to have, scans all the time, appointments all the time. And I honestly said, well, I actually don't know. I think I'm kind of off the hook now. I don't have anything scheduled with my oncologist right now, which feels really weird. But yeah, so that's why I think tonight's topic is so important, because there are still needs and things to talk about, even if we're not regularly seeing our oncologist anymore. So
That
that's
is a great point. Such a great point, Megan, to talk about, survivorship, right? Kind of this, as someone diagnosed with early stage breast cancer, which encapsulates 0 through 1, 2, and 3, not living with metastatic disease. Really being able to say, like, treatment has ended, so now what? And so to talk about, and everyone on the screen today, and what our listeners will also garner from tonight is, what does survivorship look like? And to see the faces on the screen, I think gives so much hope and inspiration to people to know that, like, yes, we've kind of gone through this trauma, but we're here to speak about it today. So thanks for that reminder. Really, let me turn things over to you.
I believe that was for Julie. Yes?
Well, I thought maybe, but I wasn't sure what she said. So, hey, I'm Julie. I live over in West Virginia. I'm a little bit away from everybody else. I think Carol's probably closer to me than anybody, but I am in West Virginia. I've been a part of volunteered with the early stage team since Laura started it, which sometime in 2023, I think it was. And, it was funny because at that point I was finished with my active treatment. I was diagnosed in 2021, August 2021. So I'd gone through the chemo and the radiation and the surgery, and I was HER2 positive. So I'd finished all the therapies for that and everything. But it was like, okay, so I'm done. Do I walk away from survivingbreastcancer.org because they were there for me when I needed the support? I still need support. So I stuck around. I was lucky enough to be invited to a retreat that they have. And at that point, I knew that this was where I wanted to stay. I just want to advocate for others and help them. And I guess that's my story. So, and I enjoy the, I guess you can call it socialization or the support, and everybody, and what we're doing for everybody else too. So we're trying to do.
Well, I appreciate that, Julie. I'm so glad SBC can be your home and that we were there to support you while you were diagnosed, and then also to have you pay it forward to our community ahead. I also find it very healing, right, to be giving back. I find that very, very helpful in my own personal experience with breast cancer. Carol, let me turn things next to you.
Well, hi, my name is Carol Collins. I'm in Tennessee. I was diagnosed in December of 2021. Oh my gosh, I have to think back to that. And I found SBC right after I finished chemo. I was part of the first cohort of Encourage and Empower, which really kind of stepped my foot in there to SBC. I have volunteered in many different roles since then and will continue. As long as Laura asks, I will say yes. I have a really hard time saying no. So I love everything that I've been a part of. We just, it's great to have a relationship with others who have been through exactly what I've been through. It is really hard in your everyday life to have people look at you and say, well, you look great and you look fine. Everything's fine. And so now you are past that. I just hit my 2-year mark of my finishing chemo, coming up on my 2-year mark of my double mastectomy. So everyone thinks I'm okay. So this is just my outlet for when I'm not okay. So I love seeing all of these ladies. I also was a part of the retreat with Julie, so it was great to meet her and the other participants of that, and to meet Laura in person. I continue, I just look forward to continuing everything I possibly can with SBC.
Thank you. We're so grateful to have you, Carol. And, this is our early stage conversation, early stage leadership team. But to just give some context also, we also have our metastatic leadership team, and they've been running webinars on like every other Wednesday. This summer, we're kind of re-looking at the schedule again. But, I think there's a time and place for early stage specific content and late stage metastatic content. But then at the same time, there is a lot of cross-pollination in the support and services that we provide at survivingbreastcancer.org. And something that you said, Carol, really resonated with me, where it was like, everyone thinks we're fine. You know, your hair has grown back, you might be going back to work, but needless to say, you are diagnosed with a breast cancer diagnosis. And I can speak for myself. I am not fine. I am a hot mess most of the time. And having people on the screen like all of you have become my new BFFs. And so I hear this also just kind of to pull the thread through with our metastatic community as well, for anyone who is watching or listening. You know, we hear that all the time, like, well, you don't look sick, even though you're living with a terminal illness, et cetera. And so knowing that we can find these commonalities where, yes, we don't have to look sick. We want to look good. We want to feel good. But in the confines of our own home, or just with mental health or anything that's going on, there's a lot still to unpack because we've gone through medical trauma. And so I don't want to undermine that experience either. McGann, can I turn things over to you?
Sure. I am McGann Acock, and there's a bunch of Megans and McGanns and everything. So I go by Meg. And I live about 10 miles south of Boston in Massachusetts. I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016. And I actually just had a little bit of more reconstruction done the other day. So it just goes on and on. I was hormone positive, HER2 equivocal. And I did all the things. And I'm here to tell about it, like all the rest of you. It's survivable. It definitely is. We're surviving breast cancer. But having a community helps. I really think, especially for myself, I don't have any sisters, and finding people who want to talk about breast cancer when they don't have it is hard. I just saw a cat. Sorry, little ADHD. But like Laura said, there's so many things that happened after that I wasn't anticipating, and so many things changes in your body, and like she said, when your hair grows back, you're not fine, and you're also not horrible. So I don't want anyone to think that you'll be horrible. It's worth surviving, but you just you take it day by day, and you have to roll with the punches and just keep going. And I've been involved with surviving breast cancer since actually 2017. I used to go to the events that Laura had around Boston, and now I'm on this great team here, and I hope to stay involved for a long time.
You are dating us, 2017, with in-person events, like pre-COVID era. I love it. You know what? And it's so funny because COVID has been really good for us in terms of being able to reach more people and offer more through our online virtual patient platforms. But I'm starting to think hybrid, because I think there is a time and place for in-person connections. As you know, Julie and Carol, you mentioned kind of like the leadership retreats that we hosted. Megan, I know you can't come to our Chicagoland barbecue taking place on Wednesday. But, you know, as William and I travel, we want to meet our community, and we want to bring the community together. And I'm also really hoping that as we grow our leadership team and our volunteers and our ambassadors, that organically people in the SBC community will start to gravitate to each other and meet up for coffees or ice cream or dinners or anything like that. Because, like I said, you guys have become such great BFFs that, you know, I see like people who don't have breast cancer or cancer at all, or haven't been diagnosed, like they don't know what to say or what to ask. They're like, how are you? And I'm like, well, what do you mean? There's so many, like, mentally, physically, with work, with breast cancer, like, what do you want to know? So, you know, it's a big thing to tackle. Megan, so you are in the Chicagoland area, and we were like a missed connection this weekend.
I know.
I'm sorry.
We just missed each other by like a little bit, but yeah, I wish I could go to tomorrow, but we will be on an airplane, so that will.
Where are you going?
We're actually going over to Europe. We're doing a family trip to Europe, so it'll be interesting. My children really don't have a huge palette of food, you know, that they're interested in, so they will either starve or they will learn how to eat different food. I don't know, but it should be very exciting. Anyway, so yeah, my name is Megan, and I'm outside of Chicago. I was, I think it was 2020. I was a COVID cancer person. So I always kind of think like, I kind of got through COVID because I was able to leave every week, leave the house and go talk to people. And like, chemo was kind of nice because you were talking to people. It was just, anyway, I was a HER2 positive triple negative. And I think I kind of found you guys when I was diagnosed. I had found it myself. And I remember my first doctor was like, just wait a month and let's see what happens. Maybe it's just like a hormonal thing. But I was like, no, something is wrong here. And so it was one of my things after I was diagnosed. I was like, I need to make sure that people are, monitoring themselves monthly. And so I had, been on your website before, and then you started the team. And so I was happy to work with you guys, just getting that door hanger started so that, people can do that monthly diagnosis. I was so happy that you were open to that idea and like getting that diagnosed, getting those out there. So yeah, and I will piggyback off what everyone has said. It's just so nice to have people to talk to. Like, even though we're done, I mean, I can go down the rabbit hole spiral and worry. And so I don't know. I think it's a great resource to have. It's nice to have people who understand what it's like. So yeah, that's what I've got.
Glad you are here. And because it's Tuesday night, I am drinking some wine. There's no shame in that, because, you could be the healthiest person in the world, but you could still get cancer. And so I am not one of those people who is like, oh, wine has caused cancer, sugar has caused cancer. To each their own. So tonight I'm hanging out with my girls, just part of this situation. But thank you, Megan, for being here, and have a fabulous time in Europe. I think that will be, an approved absence, I'm pretty sure. Like, it's okay.
But I will catch you next
barbecue.
time. I really wish I could meet up with you. We will do it. I'll meet up next time.
Of course. Pooja, you have been with us from almost the beginning as well. I would love to hear a little bit about you.
Yeah, hi everyone. This is Pooja Jain here from New Jersey. And it's been some journey, some years. And I can't believe that I show up every Thursday, and I'm proud of myself for that. So yes, I got my baseline mammogram in 2018. Everything was good. And then I was asked to come again after a year. In December 2019, they found the tumor, and I was like, what are they talking? And it was like, how can that happen in just a year, right? And I was 44 years old, and it was triple positive. And then during 2020, it was the whole thing, chemotherapy, lumpectomy, radiation. And during that time, my care team asked me to like walk, take care of, nutrition and all those things. And then walking wasn't coming easy because there was no motivation to kind of, show up for myself. And then, I was like, okay, the podcast has been like good source of information. I was listening to other podcasts sometimes. So I just searched breast cancer, and then breast cancer conversations popped up. And that's how I found you, Laura. And you were my, you were my walking partner. I got my steps, and all the words which comes with cancer diagnosis were like, I can't even pronounce them. I don't know what it is. And, of course, Google doesn't help that much, but then how you speak to, the people who want to share, it really helped me to understand my journey, also, tackle my chemo brain. And then during that time, you introduced Zoom. So it was amazing. Like, we were partying together. We celebrated Halloween, Thanksgiving, and, so we are family. And
We do.
yes. And I have learned how to express myself, also connect. So thank you for, Thursday Night Thriver support group and the podcast. And I definitely have to mention the integrative programs that are offered throughout the month. So that are amazing. So those are, so thank you so much.
Amazing. I think, Pooja, you reached out saying, I found your podcast and I walked to it. And so I started making longer podcasts to make Pooja walk longer. So you may notice the progression of 30 minutes to 45 to sometimes we have hour-long episodes. But Pooja, you've been such a great source of inspiration and positivity and light and, integrative compliments to everything that we are going through with a breast cancer diagnosis. So thank you for all that you bring to the table. Marcy, thank you for joining us tonight. I'm so glad to have you here. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Marcy. I live in New York City. I was diagnosed in August of 2017, triple positive. I had a lumpectomy, chemo, radiation. I started with AIs. I had issues with my AIs. Now I'm on tamoxifen. And for me, when I was diagnosed, I didn't know anybody who had been diagnosed with breast cancer. So I got involved with the support group at my hospital and one of the other local hospitals and went weekly. And that was kind of my savior. And a friend of mine was involved in Laura's group for, I don't know, like probably she was here for about a year, and she kept saying, come on online. We're doing a group. And I'm like, no, I've got enough. I'm not going. And when we had lockdown, I finally went on. And I think that was July of 19, I'm assuming. And I kind of haven't gotten off. And then a year and a half ago, I sort of took over helping out with the Thursday Night Thrivers group that Pooja helps run, and Laura, and now Carol and Megan, because I kind of felt like I needed to give back. I didn't have anyone to fall back on, so I kind of want to be there to help others, because you kind of don't know what you have coming. But as you can see, all of us sort of got through the other end. It's, it can be a little tough. Everybody is different. But there's support on the other end. And as everyone said, sort of after treatment, it's not over. Your hair's back. Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything. You're not on chemo. Yeah, that doesn't mean anything. There's just like a whole different component to it. So
it's almost like when you finish treatment, for those of us who are early stage that can say that we finished active treatment, I think that's when it hits us the hardest or the most. And it is not uncommon for us to have people join our community, 2 years out, 5 years out, 7+ years out, just saying like, I still think about this every day. I have a fear of recurrence. I am worried because I carry a genetic predisposition and I have daughters. I'm worried, like this just stays in our minds regardless of what stage you're at. I know there's definitely nuances and differences, but I really think that, one of the resources at survivingbreastcancer.org is to like meet you on that continuum from like newly diagnosed, like just found out and heard the words, like I'm waiting on my biopsy and someone just called me to say I have cancer, to, gosh, it came back, or I was diagnosed de novo, or I have metastatic, and now I need to actually start planning for end of life care, et cetera. So to really meet you on that continuum. I want to focus on some of the great achievements this group has done over the last year. Megan, I think you were mentioning the hangers that you guys created. Do you want to kind of share and turn the attention to, okay, so what is the early stage leadership team at SBC? If you want to give like a quick overview and then maybe some of the, like highlight a project or two, and then I can have someone else piggyback on that.
I will totally talk about the hangers.
Okay.
As I demonstrate what they are. Actually, I have one here.
Oh, good.
Here, like, just this. Yay!
Nice.
No, everyone, look at you guys, like props.
We're amazing. I don't know if anybody remembers, like when I was younger, like when I would go to the gyno for like my yearly, they had something like this. And then they like disappeared. And so that was just like, I didn't come up with this, this idea on my own. It was from years and years ago. But I just think like, because my mom had it twice, I always just started, always checking and monthly. So I knew to check, but so many other people don't. So I think that's why it was so important. But I loved working on this. I loved like that so many people brought different ideas, and, Meg, you and I worked together, and the poem on the back was awesome. And I don't know where you guys are distributing, but I've distributed to, I put bookmarks at our library. I literally hand them out when I have girls' nights. I'm just like, here they are. Who doesn't have one? And sometimes I'll get like oh, for God's sakes. I'm like, no, you check. You have to check, because that's how it is. So I don't know. I thought it was a really great creative process, and so many good ideas and so many different drafts that we went through to make sure it was, the best information possible. I don't know. I don't, what else? What am I missing, you guys?
Nothing. It was It was a great project. The poem on the back is by one of
Yeah.
the long-term members who had breast cancer a couple times, Berkshire. And it's a fabulous poem. So if you don't have a hanger, you should get one, even just to read the poem.
The poem. Yeah.
And then remember to check yourself.
Yes. So, I mean, this is such a great project too, because you guys came with ideas and presented it to, I think, Megan at SBC and myself to kind of see, like, is this a direction we want to go? Is it worth having our, dedicating time and resources into creating this? And it was hands down, yes. I think one thing being early stage, I think we have a responsibility to help with awareness around breast cancer, because we can preach to the choir, but we really need to reach women and teenagers and start at like high schoolers to say, be breast aware, understand your family history, understand what is your normal, and then to do self breast exams to assess and understand what is normal for you and when something is not normal, to be able to speak up and advocate for yourself. And so something like this hanger that we see so often, it could be on doorknobs, it could be in your shower, it could be in your bathroom, is such a great takeaway as your monthly reminder to do your self breast exam. So for anyone who is interested in receiving these amazing giveaways, I don't know what to call them, brochures, flyers, hangers, you can email info@survivingbreastcancer.org and we can mail them to you. We can also reach out and help you distribute them at your clinics and your hospitals, cancer centers, etc. So very grassroots, but huge impact, which I really appreciate. How many of you, and just kind of speaking of that breast awareness piece, how many of you on the screen found your own lump? Raise your hands. Okay. And was it through a routine self-exam?
Yes.
All right, I see some yeses. I see some no's. Okay. So Megan, SBC, do you want to talk about how you found yours?
Sure. Yeah, I was, I'll admit I was not doing my self-exams monthly as we recommend. But fortunately I did happen to do an exam. Just kind of randomly one day. And yeah, I kind of just knew in my gut. I knew it was very rare because again, at that time I was only 31. And so I knew it was very rare for someone my age to have breast cancer, but something just in my gut was telling me this isn't right. And it just didn't feel right. And yeah, so I found it. And unfortunately in my case, it took many months and several incorrect diagnoses before I actually got the correct diagnosis. So I wasn't actually diagnosed until months and months later. But at the time I did just have a feeling that it was cancer, and it was.
And Carol, you said you found yours.
I was not doing self-exams. I was 44 when I was diagnosed. I had not had a mammogram, so I was not doing all of the things that we should be doing. However, I was just in the shower doing normal wash, felt a lump. It took a couple of weeks for me to kind of mentally say, I need to do something about this. I didn't know anyone that had had breast cancer before I was diagnosed that I could reach out to ask questions. So I found the lump in October and was diagnosed in December.
And it's common, I hear. I mean, again, I feel like we're in this echo chamber too. I feel like I know so many women with breast cancer, but of course, given the work that we do at SBC, we attract people who want to talk to us about their diagnosis. So it feels a little skewed. But a lot of times too, people are like, I just had a clear mammogram, or I just had my women's health exam, et cetera, and everything came back fine. And then literally waking up and going into the shower or finding something that's abnormal out of the blue. I also want to just share for anyone who's listening or watching that breast cancer does not always present with a lump. So I do want to acknowledge that while we do a lot of times talk about breast cancer being a lump that we found that can feel like, the cartilage at the tip of your nose, or sometimes the cartilage at your elbow, that type of pea feeling, there are types of breast cancer that don't present with a lump, and there's other symptoms such as dimpling. And that's actually how I found mine, was through breast changes. It was actually dimpling, kind of looking like the outer peel of an orange you might hear or see. There could be pain, there could be redness, there can be discharge, etc. And so anything that is not your normal should be examined. And then especially with other types of subsets of breast cancer that don't always present on mammograms, I think it's really important to know your breast density and ask your doctor to do additional screenings above and beyond just a mammogram or mammography, where they can do ultrasounds, they could also do MRIs, etc. And so I think just knowing what your screening options are and your screening modalities, I envision a place of us getting to a world where, just like our glasses, like, Meg, I'm not going to wear your glasses because they're not going to work with me. And you're not going to wear my contacts because they're not going to work for you. But we get to a point where breast cancer screenings are unique to the individual based on our unique risk factors. Other projects you guys have jumped into. I believe you helped put together a list of questions to ask your doctors. Does someone want to talk about that?
We did that as a team, as a group, with Megan leading us and taking great notes. And we kind of went by our own experiences. Like, what do I wish I had known the first time I went to the oncologist? What do I wish I had asked when I got home and thought about that appointment? And now I have all these questions, and I'm gone, right? She's not sitting in front of me anymore. So we all gave suggestions, and we had a lot of information, and we kind of narrowed it down and categorized it. But I think it's nice to walk into an oncology office or any of your doctor's offices and have something that you can go from and say, oh, check those boxes off. We made it as a checklist. You can download it right from the website. And I'm trying to think of a couple of the questions that we put there were some really, really good questions in there. Such even simple things like always have a notebook and a pencil or a pen with you. Take notes, write things down that the doctor says to you, because you're not going to remember. When you're still in shock and you're going in there for the first time, you're just not going to remember what you want to ask or what you should have asked. So hopefully this checklist, hopefully people are using it. Hopefully people are enjoying it. We'd love your feedback on it. If there's something that should be changed or you don't think is applicable, or something added. But it was, pulling from so many different experiences, I think we got a pretty good handle on at least the first visit.
Absolutely. And what I love about the questions, and so for anyone who's going to our website to download these resources, it can be very overwhelming. Do not look at this as like 20 questions to ask my doctor in the first visit. I literally say, parse it out. This is my first visit, or I'm preparing for surgery and post-op. I'm preparing for chemotherapy. Like, these are the questions to ask your doctor, and circle maybe 5. And, star maybe 3 that are the most critical and important to you, because we know doctors don't always have more than 20 minutes, if that, to speak with us. And so, I think it's nice for us to have questions in the back of our mind, but do not feel like here is the worksheet to give to your doctor, but circle what's most important to you. And then for you to have some ideas in the back of your mind as you go through treatment, what questions you might want to pose to your doctor or nurse navigator or social worker as you go through the process. All right, so we have done a lot, and this group is going to continue to provide, sounding board support for our community, especially focusing on those diagnosed with early stage breast cancer, those who are newly diagnosed, as well as those who are dealing with a breast cancer diagnosis a couple years out. I want to turn things over to more of your personal experiences. We had someone in the chat actually talk about, living with triple negative breast cancer. So I would love to turn to some of our panelists who have been diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer, what your experience has been, how far out you are from your initial diagnosis, and now what? Those are 3 questions tied into one, whoever wants to take that.
I'd be happy to share from my experience. So I was diagnosed in 2018, so over 5 years ago, which is nuts. Or is that 5? Yeah, 18, 19, 20. Yep. 5 years and some change.
That's a huge milestone, 5 years. It's huge.
Yeah, it is. And so, so I've passed the milestone of 5 years since diagnosis. And then for me personally, what I've been really looking forward to is hitting the milestone of 5 years NED, which is referring to no evidence of disease. And that kind of declaration of being NED, if you do receive it, can happen at a few different points. And for me, it happened when I had my double mastectomy. Everything was sent to pathology, and it came back. Everything was clear. So for me, that's my NED date. And so I'm approaching the 5 years from NED in June. So next month, just in a couple weeks, which is, yeah, it's
Wow.
wild. It's wild to think how long it's been. So, yeah, but like I said, I was 32 when I was diagnosed. I did the pretty standard, what I've heard from other TNBC folks. You know, a lot of us tend to do kind of the same regimen, essentially. So I did 16 rounds of chemo. I did ACT chemo, and then I had my double mastectomy, and then 5 weeks of radiation, and then after all of that, I had reconstruction surgery as well. Yeah, so that ended up taking up most of the year 2019. And then I had my final reconstruction surgery where I had my expanders taken out, implants put in. I had that just a couple weeks before COVID shutdowns. So I just snuck right in there right before we all went into lockdown. Yeah, so it's been just a healing journey since then.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And 5 years is such a huge mark. Not being triple negative, I kind of fall in the hormonal positive. I was like Meg, HER2 equivocal, which now with like HER2 low or HER2 positive, I actually don't know what I am. Like, I feel like we've been treated with so many drugs. I'm like, I don't know. Just give it to me. Let's kill it. But I will share. I feel like this is like a drum roll moment. I'm approaching 7 years, and my oncologist actually is giving me the option of stopping hormonal therapy after 7 years. And so I am very excited to go to ASCO this weekend, the American Society of Clinical Oncology, to actually like immerse myself in the literature, because we know that, you know, the difference is staying on hormonal therapies. Again, depending on all of these factors, the size of your tumor, how many lymph nodes were involved, if any, et cetera, family history. Is there a difference on being on some of these hormonal drugs years 8, 9, and 10, up to 10 years to get to that no evidence of disease, Megan, that you were describing, or not? And a lot of the studies in the clinical trials are showing that there really isn't much added benefit to the toxicity of these drugs and the side effects of these drugs. So we might have the option of getting off of them. I have not personally heard 7 years, but my oncologist was mentioning 7 years. So I need to do a little bit more research into that. But my big thing is like, will I do it? Will I be okay? What happens if I don't take this little pill every single day? So more to come. I think that's my cliffhanger for all of you to like follow for the next year, what decisions we make. But I think that also shows how quickly the treatments are evolving and the studies are evolving, and I see some people in the chat too who are participating in clinical trials, and how important that is, because we learn so much from those trials to, you know, help people who are coming behind us. Other unique experiences that you guys have, I want to talk a little bit about identity and sharing a little bit from an early stage breast cancer diagnosis to how your identity or femininity has maybe changed or evolved or kind of gone on this up and down roller coaster as you grappled with your diagnosis. Julie, can I call on you?
Sure. How my identity changed.
Or not. Maybe it hasn't.
Well, no, it has. It definitely has. And that's, I mean, but mine happened not so much during the breast cancer treatments, was afterwards. When all that active treatment was over and you're handed that little pill and said, here, take this for at least 5 years. You know, you might have to take it for 10. Come back and see us in 3 months. Well, you know, and well, I guess my identity, you know, I ramble, right? Once I start, but I think my identity did start changing during breast cancer, because you sort of, I mean, you don't intentionally withdraw, but you withdraw from, which is why we have the support we have with survivingbreastcancer.org. You withdraw from those that don't know, or those that say, wow, my sister did this. If you give me your fingernail clippings, I can probably cure your cancer, or I can do this, or I can do that.
Oh,
I had a
no.
best friend, and I finally said, that's okay. I'll just take what the oncologist gives me. Thank you. But, and then even after your cancer has been treated and you are NED, and then they start telling you how wonderful you look, and you think, well, I feel like absolute crap. I mean, you're so fatigued and I
And
always
is this
thought
because of like the hormonal therapies that you're on, Julie? Like some of the side effects?
pardon me? Side
Like the
effects from the
fatigue?
hormonal therapy. The weight and the little, that little jiggle belly that you have. That's my main side effect from the hormonal therapy. And joint pain. But then I think, well, is that old age or is that joint pain? And then the chemo brain just becomes AI brain, I think. It's just everything just keeps going. So learning to be someone else, and that hits you when your treatments stop,
Yes.
I did come to realize that I think that's just a life-changing event. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's breast cancer or it's something else. When that thing happens to you, then your whole life changes, and the way you think changes too. So
I'm always curious. You mentioned weight gain. And so is anyone else besides Megan triple negative on the call?
I am.
Megan, you are the other Megan. Okay, two Megans that are triple negative. So, if you're not on hormonal therapies, right, you're not forced into necessarily, depending on your age, into this like menopausal state. And so, I know chemotherapy can put us into menopause right away as well. But I'm curious, right? Like if you're triple negative and you're not taking these hormonal pills that are causing joint pain, that are causing fatigue, that are causing menopause, I mean, all of these things are kind of going against wanting to work out. I mean, to be honest, like you wake up and you feel like the Tin Man, Tin Woman from The Wizard of Oz to get out of bed. It takes a good 10 to 20 minutes to like loosen up all of your joints, and you don't want to work out, right? And then I'm just wondering too, like, because you're not on these hormonal therapies, is it easier for you after a diagnosis to stay fit, to focus on diet and exercise, to lose any of the chemotherapy weight you might have gained during active treatment? So I guess my question is for anyone who's diagnosed, maybe Megan in Chicago, has weight been a topic of concern for you? Yes or no, and how that has worked. And then I want to turn it over to my friends who are also taking hormonal therapies to talk about weight gain and how that has or has not impacted your life as well. But Megan, let's start with you.
The weight gain is really just because I eat too much. Like it has nothing to do with like I mean, I gained a little bit of weight during chemo because I did the menopause. I was put into menopause. But then after it, like, no, the weight issue is totally my fault. So
can you still
no blame. I mean, we've been through everything, so enjoy life.
Can I ask her
it's the cookies.
Can you still like when you want to lose weight, say you want to lose 5 pounds, is it the same now trying to lose that 5 pounds as it was before treatment?
That's true. That's a good point. It's not. And I don't know if that, like, I don't know how you guys were, but like I said, like I went into menopause and then coming out of it, it is harder to lose it. That is true. So I don't know.
It is harder to lose it. And I don't like the gaslighting necessarily that our doctors tell us that, oh, well, you're just getting older, because that does not just sit well with me.
And Laura, I struggled. I am not hormone positive, HER2 positive only. However, I struggled with like mentally because during chemo, I couldn't eat anything. I couldn't drink anything. That once I was able to taste everything, I wanted everything back. And I almost like wanted to taste everything again so that I could see if it still tasted the way I thought it did when I was when my brain wasn't working and I was in chemo. So I struggled a lot with that, with, like reteaching myself how to eat appropriately because I was indulging on things I probably shouldn't have been.
Oh yeah.
That's a good point.
Marcy, what are some of the changes, if any, that you've noticed since being diagnosed? Because you are several years out as well.
Yeah. Well, I have the weight factor also, but I think I'm like Megan that I just eat a lot. You know, I mean,
To eat.
Yeah, it's because we're also told, to eat, to, exercise and lose weight and all that stuff. And I kind of decided I was just going to eat, which is not good. But now I have to like lose the weight because it's bad. I think that's the biggie that I noticed because I know that that's really, I've never been skinny by any means of the word, but I've also never been this heavy. I'm definitely getting a little self-conscious with it. So I need to figure out how to lose weight. So if any of you guys figure it out, let me know. But yeah, that really is my big one. I don't know. I think that's my big one also.
Well, we can all relate and unite against that. I'm constantly looking for blog posts and more evidence of, how lipids and the fat cells work. I don't have a background in biology or science, but I'm just so curious of like what is happening to the internal side of our bodies with our livers, with our organs, with how we store fat, how we go into preservation mode, especially because we've been given so much toxic treatment to cure the cancer and keep us alive, which I am so grateful for. But then the long-term side effects that we are now having to deal with. And so I know that there are members on this call tonight too, that we talked about, fatty liver disease or non-alcoholic fatty liver, right? Because you're given so much toxic chemicals that 20 years ago, they're like, oh, you're not going to live that long anyway. Or this was just, if you're 80 and you get breast cancer, no problem. We can get you to 5 years or 10 years. But so many of us on this call tonight were diagnosed at such a young age. We plan on living to 85, 90, 100, et cetera. And so what happens if we've been treated in our 30s and 40s with these amazing aggressive drugs that are saving our lives, but what are those long-term effects now that we have to manage? And so can I turn things over? Was it Pooja that you were dealing with non-alcoholic fatty liver?
No, mine was.
Oh, no. Okay. I'm sorry. If there was someone but what was yours?
Yeah, hi. So yeah, mine was around thyroid because I went for my physical exam after my active treatment. I was like, okay, let me go for my annual exam because it's good to keep a track on what's going on in the body, because during active exam they don't check your cholesterol, they don't check your thyroid, and I'm like, well, it's been more than a year, so let me just go for it. And then, it was numbers were way out of roof. It was like Hashimoto kind of thing. So I had to Google that. But, because my radiation was on the left-hand side, and I could see my neck was red. So I was like, thyroid is right here. That's where, when I Googled, I was like, okay, that's where thyroid is. I asked my physician, my internal medicine doctor, that can I just, give myself those 2-3 months, come back for exam again, because I just finished my radiation. So I learned to advocate for myself through the group, like listen to your body, love, be gentle, love and kindness to yourself, and give yourself the space to heal. So there was no space, and I was like, everything is going so fast. So I kind of took a back step, and I requested if I can come after 3 months. And when I went after 3 months, the numbers then came down, which was a relief. And I was like, okay, my body is healing. So that it gave me that hope. And so that's where, and I'm on thyroid medication right now, but the numbers are way around the borderline. So it's just the borderline. So from roof up high, borderline. But how we were talking about weight, I just wanted to share during that time. I was just listening, but when I saw my family, it was during pandemic, and when I went to India for the first time, I didn't see that people were like kind of like, oh, hi, we are happy to see you. You're alive. Like I didn't see that reaction. It was more like, you have gained weight. I'm like, excuse me, I'm happy to be alive. It's okay if I've gained weight, because do you know what I'm going through? I'm like on the Lupron shots, and I'm, taking all these medications, and I don't know what's my body is going through, but thank God it's working. It's trying to recover. So yeah, and we females, we have to go through this weight issue no matter what. So,
Yes.
with
And a lot of the steroids they give us as pre-medication to help with nausea causes weight gain,
Yeah.
water retention. I feel like I just look like a cherubim, like a really beautiful, chubby cherubim, and I'm going to embrace that. So thank you for sharing that. And
yeah, and that is where the support group has really helped me thrive. More than survive, it's like thrive.
Yes.
So thank
and
you
Meg,
all.
you also are dealing with, some aftermath of treatments such as, Hashimoto's or non-alcoholic fatty liver, etc.
Who did you say, Laura?
You.
Oh, me. Yeah. I have all the things. I think my cholesterol went up. My liver, I have non-alcoholic fatty liver, which boo, all the fatty liver without the alcohol to enjoy on the way. And and Hashimoto's. So, and these are things I did not know was going to happen to me. I mean, the liver is a direct result of processing all the chemo and all the other things that were going through my body. And I think I wasn't prepared. And you don't pick up on some of these things either until like a year, 2 years, 3 years out. It wasn't immediately that all these things came up. So it's a surprise. I don't think it happens to everyone. I don't want to scare anyone.
No, it's not scary, but I think it's like, they tell us the risk factors, right? Like the risk factors. Here's like the long list of risk factors.
Right.
And
that you get with every medicine bottle that we do not get with our chemo, right? Nobody gave me the label to say, this could happen to you too. But that being said,
one thing, Megan, I want to ask you though too, because I'm sorry that you have all these like long-term side effects that are bubbling up, which does not happen to everyone. We're not scaring anyone, but I think it goes in one ear and out the other sometimes, because you're like, just give me the drugs because I don't want cancer. My main goal right now is to get the cancer out of my body.
Right.
And so now in terms of survivorship, we are dealing with these longer term implications. I too see a cardiologist, oncologist, because I had radiation to my left side and now my heart is affected. But you had a very unique situation with breast implant illness that I would love to just talk to you about a little bit and enlighten our listeners, because you had 2 or so years of just side effects that you thought this was your new normal, and that actually wasn't your new normal. So I would love for you to share just like a quick recap on what those side effects were and the decisions that brought you to where you are today.
So I think my situation was kind of unique because I also have a connective tissue disorder called Ehlers-Danlos. So looking back, I never should have had implants. However, the doctors thought it was safe. And I ended up with 3 different sets of implants. The first set moved around a lot. The second set were textured because they'll stay in place. Unfortunately, I was sitting home watching the news one night and they were recalled for causing cancer. So those came out, and I got a third set and then I was just miserable. And I thought there's something wrong with me. I was super achy, incredibly forgetful. I'm trying to think of everything, all my bones and joints hurt. But again, these are symptoms from so many of the things that our bodies are put through with breast cancer. So I just kept thinking, forgetful chemo brain or achy. It's just, it's just part of what we have to go through as women. And I had Graves' disease before I got cancer, but I went in and my numbers were off the charts, Hashimoto's, like way off the charts. And I asked to have my implants removed. My plastic surgeon was not a fan. He very much made me feel like I was spoiling his art. So I did get them removed after about a year of convincing him that I was pretty sure I had breast implant illness. And there's a lot of other symptoms too. And if you Google it, they'll all come right up. and another good reason to check yourself and be in tune with your body, and don't push things off if you think it's a problem. But he took them out. And sure enough, my thyroid, it's not normal, but it dropped, I think it was 500 points, my blood test, after the implants were removed. And I said to him, how many women are you seeing with breast implant illness? And he said, oh, we don't know if that's a thing. So, I think plastics, and this does not happen to everyone, right? Like, a lot of people can have silicone implants and be fine. I was not that person. And I'm so glad that I listened to myself, because otherwise I would still have them in and I still would not be feeling well. Getting out of bed in the morning, I felt like an 80-year-old woman, shuffling to the bathroom, but the aromatase inhibitors can do that too. So I think really sorting out what your body is going through and talking to your doctors, but also standing firm. If you're having symptoms of things, don't let them tell you that you're not, because it's you know your body best, and you need to be in charge of what is happening to your body. A quick side note, they said somebody had advised me, don't go back to the same plastic surgeon to have them removed because he won't do what you want. And I was said, no. He's one of the top plastic surgeons in Boston. I'm good to go. And the reality was, he did not do what I wanted. I wanted to be completely flat at that point, and he left a lot of extra skin so that we could do the next thing. So I just had all that extra skin removed. I am finally, I look like a 12-year-old boy, flat as a board, but I'm very happy and I feel so much better.
It's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And I think it's so hard too, because we know what we want. We are sharing with our surgeons what our desires are. And I think sometimes it is so ingrained, and to your point, like, it was a work of art. Like, it's not personal for them. They haven't gone through breast cancer, but it is their job and their work and their profession. And, they may think what's best. However, this is really where, and we debate this a lot in the breast cancer realm of, like, is it shared decision making, or what's really shared is actually my decision, and I need to find the right person to acknowledge and support my decision. Mm-hmm. So this hour has flown by, you guys. We have a couple questions in the chat that I want to acknowledge before we do like our last rapid fire wrap up. But let's see. Sherry is asking, has anyone had metaplastic carcinoma, which is a subset of breast cancer? I did post in the chat a link to a blog that we wrote about this particular topic, but I don't think anyone on the screen has this and can address it directly. Is that correct? Okay.
No.
Sherry, I'm sorry about that, but again, we have the blog that I linked to, and happy to follow up with you offline at a follow-up. And again, new topics for future podcasts and conversations that we could address as well. Laura mentions that she's starting radiation next week. Did you guys do anything preemptively? Anyone would like to take this? They made it sound like no big deal, just use lotion. Oh my God, radiation is a big deal, you guys. Like, let's not diminish our experiences first and foremost. But I'm sure, let's see, maybe we can hear like two different experiences of people who have had radiation. Pooja, go ahead.
Yeah, so for me, it was seeing lymphedema specialist, because after radiation, the range of motion really gets out of range. So you can do a pre-screening, and then you know how much your hand will be going and how much you can push yourself. So yeah, really, lymphedema specialist helped me a lot.
Fantastic. Yes, Marcy.
So radiation is different for everyone. For me, it kind of was easy because chemo kicked my butt. So for me, I felt that radiation was a piece of cake. That was me. I was lucky I didn't have any skin issues. But you do want to make sure that you lotion. Lotion is going to be your best friend because it keeps your skin moist, because the radiation sort of dries you out. I sort of found I didn't have any skin issues. I got a little bit red, like a sunburn. But like I say, I kind of skated through radiation, whereas chemo was like a whole nother story. I was exhausted with chemo. But some people get exhaustion from radiation, but lotion will be your best friend. Make sure you lotion 3 times a day, not right before radiation. But lotion is your best friend. And if you have any issues, you just tell your doctor. You know, that's the important thing, is you just have to be chemo, radiation. You just have to be on top of any changes and let your doctor know. You know, don't think it's normal necessarily. It may be, because half of the answers when you do call your doctor, the answers are that's normal, but it's not normal to you. So just sort of be on top of those changes.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you, Marcy. I know you were asking about preemptive, but I would say like what post-emptive, I guess. Like when I finished 5 weeks of radiation, 30 plus rounds of radiation, I was so excited at the end to be like, I'm done with radiation. And I thought I was just going to bounce right back. I did not realize the cumulative effect of radiation, knowing that weeks 6, 7, and 8, I was going to be equally tired and fatigued. So I think just in terms of expectation setting, that's really important to note also. We have another great question from Brown Smith. What do you do differently after a diagnosis, specifically those who are triple negative? Did you do anything differently after being diagnosed? Megan and Megan?
Megan, would you like to go first, or should I go?
Sure. Yeah,
Megan?
so I mean, what comes to mind is this isn't necessarily related to me being TNBC specifically, but just in general, I really found that once I was able to get to the end of treatment and kind of felt like I could come up for air again, I realized that there was a lot of like, I needed to consider my just general life priorities and where I was going in life, what I was doing, you know, identity stuff. And I just took a lot of time to think about like, okay, now I have this kind of new chance at life. It really felt like starting a new chapter, and do I want to do things differently, whether that's like relationships with other people, you know, what I'm doing with my time. Mental health was a huge thing I decided to focus on because I knew I needed like extra support with mental health. There's all these things that I just like realized I needed to do for myself, and I finally had the time to do that. So that's something that I prioritized and still do.
I love that. I feel like you answered my rapid fire question, Megan. Megan in Chicago, did you have anything else to add to that? Did you do anything differently?
No, I would agree with you, Megan, that like I look at things differently. Yes, like let's prioritize things, but I think also like, and this isn't necessarily just with being a triple negative, because I loved my doctor when, you know, at first I was HER2 positive, and then because of a study, they found out I was also triple negative. And I was like, well, is this a big deal? And she's like, no, it's just another thing we've got to treat. So it was very much like, yeah, you're going to get through this too. Get over it. I loved that part of it. And I was very lucky because my doctor was perfect for me. But in general, I think like when you're newly diagnosed, stay true to who you are and deal with it how you want to. Because I remember people coming up to me and be like, oh, aren't you just having breakdowns? Aren't you so sad? I'm like, well, yes, this stinks. But if I sit here and dwell on it, like that's not, I can't do that. That's not who I am. We dealt through it with a lot of humor. Like we made a lot of jokes and had a lot of humor. My son cut my hair. Like it was a lot of, you know, crazy, funny times that happened. And that was just me. That's not everyone. And so just staying true to who you want to be, how you get to decide how you want to deal with this. Nobody else does. So that would be my big advice.
I love that. Thank you. Well, as we are closing in on our conversation today, I feel like there needs to be like, maybe like quarterly, like put in the chat, like, would you like to see this group quarterly, you guys? Because I feel like there's so much to dive into. It's like, ask the early stage leadership team, ... I feel like this is like a really great conversation. So my last question, and we'll just quickly go around my Hollywood squares here for the dialogue, is what one piece of advice would you give someone who is either just tuning in or just listening or just watching, who is newly diagnosed with breast cancer and has all the questions? So Marcy, let me start with you.
One bit of advice. Ideally, it's sort of a scary thing when you end up getting the diagnosis, but you will get through it. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but you will get through it. And also with any of it, with the surgery, with chemo, with radiation, we sort of play a number on ourselves, and it's not as bad as we think. So you definitely can get through it. It's just different than what your normal is.
Thank you, Marcy. Pooja, one piece of advice.
Advice is more of like, cancer keeps on giving. So sometimes it's really bad, but it's good ones too, like a great community. You look for what you want from the community, find your kind of people who are supportive to you. No is a full sentence. Advocate for yourself. So yeah, it's not one piece of advice because it's like a huge word. Cancer is a huge word. So there's so many. But yeah, I like to take one day at a time. That only for today I will take, I'll walk for 10 minutes. Only for today I'll do my breathing exercise. So that has been my mantra.
Amazing. Thank you. Megan S., one piece of advice. You kind of gave some in your other answer,
yeah,
but this
I
is
think
the official question.
the official question. Oh gosh. I think like my advice, first of all, have a doctor you like. My doctor, I like, and trust yourself and be like ready to be an advocate for yourself. But also just, again, I would just go back to like, deal with it how you want to. If you want to sit and cry and muddle, do that. And if you want to go like buy 5 new pairs of shoes, go do that. Like, you get to do what you want to do and deal with it how you want to deal with it. If that makes sense. That's kind of my overall general arching.
Anyone who's giving me permission to buy more shoes, like, you are now my new BFF.
I was totally drugged up on like chemo stuff one day, and I bought like 6 handbags, and I'm like, well,
I love it.
Nobody can be mad. It's chemo day.
Exactly. Meg, what about you? Fault. One piece of advice.
My advice is that you can do this. We have all done this, and you can do this too, because it's overwhelming. I remember when the doctor gave me the rundown of what my treatment was going to be, and in the beginning they were going to treat me for HER2. When she said a year of treatment, I thought, oh my God. But you can do, like, I look back now, my cousin actually called me the other day. A lot of people in my family have breast cancer, and she said, what kind of breast cancer do we have? I can't remember. There will come a day, I swear to God, to all of you, there will come, maybe not Laura, because she does this all the time, but there will come a day where you're going to be like, what did I do first? When I was going through treatment for this and that and the other thing. You'd be surprised, but you can do it. I know you can all do it.
Thank you. Great encouragement. Carol.
Mine is going to be use your resources. They're out there. Don't do this alone. You don't have to. You have a support team. You have a support system, and whether it's your nurse navigator, your medical team members, a support group, whatever that is, use those resources to help advocate for yourself. And you know your body, so listen to your body.
Awesome. Megan.
Similar to what a lot of others have shared. The self-advocacy is a really big piece, and just a reminder that you are not inconveniencing anybody. If you need more information, if you need a second opinion from another doctor, nobody's going to get mad at you. If they do get mad, they're not the right doctor for you. So if you are not satisfied with the service that you're getting and the answers and the information you're getting, just remember that you're the boss of this person, this doctor, this team that's serving you. And so if you're not getting what you need, you deserve better. And you can always seek elsewhere to get what you need.
Sorry, Laura, I wasn't laughing at you. Every time you say Megan, all 3 of us look up.
I know, like, what?
So if your name is Megan, please join our leadership team. Yes. Absolutely. Julie, piece of advice?
Peer support. I think that's the biggest thing. Someone that you can ask those questions. Even if you have a good oncology support team, most of them have not been there. They've not had chemo. They don't know what it's like. And that's what I needed the most, was that peer support, whether it's in person, or now we're also lucky to have so many online ones, So I think that's a big one right there.
It's hard to narrow down just one piece of advice, right? I feel like this team could just go on and on of like things I wish I knew or things I want to share with people. For me, I think it would be, this is your time to be selfish. Give yourself grace. Allow yourself to have the bad days, but also allow yourself to have the beautiful days. And with that, I think I would like to say thank you for all of you for being part of our early stage SBC leadership team and for sharing your stories tonight, which I think we might need to make a series out of. I feel like this was like a good vibe and a lot of traction, a lot of good education, personal experiences that we're sharing with the world. Thank you so much for being vulnerable, for opening up, for sharing your experiences and everything that you've gone through, and for giving hope for those who have been newly diagnosed with early stage breast cancer, knowing that there is light at the end of the tunnel and survivorship is possible. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.